Hello, and welcome back to the studio. I'm Dr. Wiggo, and today we're going to talk about the greatest remake of one of the best JRPGs of all time. Yes, and that includes Final Fantasy VII. I feel a little strange because I don't have anything to hold because I bought the game digitally. I did pre-order some bonus stuff, but it never came, so I don't know what happened, and I don't think I got charged. But anyway, I don't have anything to hold. I'll hold little virtual things. The game I'm talking about, of course, is Trails in the Sky First Chapter, the remake that just came out on September 19th. And the reason I'm only getting into it now is because there were all these little iPhone announcements and things I had to talk about for a few weeks. But let's get to this game. Now, 2 years ago, I did this video where I went through the entire Trails series, so 13 games and counting so far, and allegedly still 7 to go, so a lot of games. This one came out originally in 2004. For historical perspective, that would have been right before Final Fantasy X-2. So Final Fantasy had been around. But this game was different and went on to be very different, which I explained in there, and I will explain a little bit here today. This game is a classic JRPG. I mean, it has everything that JRPGs have. There's crafting systems. There's all sorts of things you have to deal with. There's side quests. But what this game did, which is one of the things that makes it amazing, is they made side quests part of the job of the protagonists. Yeah. So the story starts out with this girl, Estelle, who's 16, and her adopted brother, Joshua, also 16, and they're trying to become bracers, which in this world is like mercenary police because they don't really have police. They just have the army. But bracers kind of fill in the gap, and they're like a non-governmental organization that spans the entire continent. And so it's very intriguing. But their jobs as bracers is to do things like fetch quests, monster exterminations, escorting people through monster-infested areas, all the kinds of things you do in side quests in most JRPGs, but now it's part of the main story because it's the job that they're training to do. Where it gets even more interesting, in order to become senior bracers, they have to get recommendations from each region in the country. So they have to go through the 5 major regions of Liberl. And we'll get back to that. They call it Liberl in this game. It's been called Liberl in every other game. We'll get to that towards the end of the review. So they have to go through all the regions. So you get to see a whole lot of open areas and wander around. There are optional side quests, but not really. If you really want to do this game right, you have to do all of the side quests because you get rewards for it. It's not a waste of your time. And you get to learn more. There's lore and things hidden in the side quests that you won't find out any other way. Oh, and the other thing this game introduced, NPCs with story arcs. So as you go through the game and you go around town talking to all the little NPCs, they all have dialogue, they almost all have names, and they have stories. So after every major story event, they all have new dialogue. So you have to go around and talk to them again. In fact, I gotta tell you, I got a little tired of it towards the end of the game. When I'm in the final chapter and I'm on my way to the final confrontation and the big climax, every time anything happens, all the NPCs. And in the final chapter, there's a lot of NPCs because you're in a major city. It gets to be a bit much. The good news is on replays, you can just skip talking to them all because you know their stories. But that first time through, it's a slog. I mean, it's worth it. You pick up a lot of context and find out things that are going on. You get hints about what's going on in your main quests. It's phenomenal. So that's basically the story. 2 kids setting out to become bracers, and they go around from area to area. Of course, the stakes keep going up. In each area, there's something bigger going on, and they seem to be related, and then they go to another area, and then there's other things going on, which also seem to be related. And then, of course, you have the big crashing conclusion, which is a characteristic of all JRPGs and all Trails games. There's some big thing coming at the end. Way bigger than you could have imagined as you're going towards it. So that's the overview of the story. I'm not going to go into detail because I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a lot of things going on here. Oh, and in each region, you meet new people to join your party. So your party members change through the game, and only at the very end of the game do you have access to all your party members at the same time for the big final fights, which are tremendous. So that's the story. Now let's talk about this remake. The original game, again, 21 years ago, was the little 16-bit sprites running around. They'll be on the screen. And so here's a scene from the original where they're the little sprites and they're running around doing their things. And now let's look at that same scene with voice acting and 3D animation in this remake.
Go away! Get away! Still? It's Joshua!
Boys, get back! It's dangerous!
We'll take care of him!
Pretty big difference, huh? And they had to do it all from scratch. In the other Trails games, as they move through the different countries where the action takes place, they have converted all of those to 3D. So if they want to go back and remake some of the other games, piece of cake. But this game had never been rendered in 3D. You never go back to Liberl or Liberl in any of the other games. So you never see the 3D versions of all this until this game. And they're amazing, as you'll see. Now, the original game had this orbment system where you put quartz in an orbment and it lets you have different magic and do different things. Kind of like materia in Final Fantasy, but not the same, but kind of like. You have to kind of learn to min-max because if you put in a bunch of the red quartz, then you get the fire arts. But if you put in the green quartz, you get the wind arts. And if you put in the blue quartz, you get the water arts. But it's hard to have multiple kinds until much later in the game when you get the fancier quartzes that have a lot more power. But the orbment system is phenomenal. And in the remake, they've added some extra quartz that didn't exist in the original, which give you more power and more arts and more things you can do. So even if you played the original game, this game is different. There's new things you can do. But the biggest change in the remake is in the original, when you would go from one little area to another, there'd be a loading screen. Well, now pretty much the whole open world in an area is one giant thing with no loading screens. You run into towns and you run back out onto the road. Oddly, if you go inside buildings, then there's a loading screen. Going into and coming out of buildings, there are loading screens. Those pesky NPCs hide in the buildings, so you have to go in and out of buildings a lot. It's a little annoying. On the PS5, they were very fast, those load screens, so it's not such a big deal, and they put little hints up, but it's still annoying. But once you're out on the street in this town and then run out onto the roads, out into the countryside, it's just all one giant open area, and you can just go wherever you want, as fast as you want, and do all the things you want, and kill all the monsters you want. It's just amazing. Also in this remake, they've added in a reward system. So if you kill a certain number of enemies, or if you use an art a certain number of times, then you get these rewards. And the rewards can be substantial, which again is why you don't want to skip the side quests, because the side quests also have special rewards and special quartz you sometimes get and things that can really help you in the game, but you got to do all the side quests to get all that. But again, they feel organic because it's part of your job. You're doing your job. You go to the bulletin board in the guild and you pick up your requests and you go out and do them. Oh, be careful though. Some requests have time limits. It'll say short. What that means is you need to do them before the next major story event. When you see the little green indicators, which mean a subquest, and there's a red indicator that means a main quest, save the red one for later. Get the green ones all knocked out. And there's also blue ones, which are just events. Sometimes people give you things when you go to those. Sometimes there's a little story thing. They're optional, and these are really optional because you don't have to do the blue events. But you should. You should do everything in the game. And the other thing they did in this remake is the quality of life improvements. In the original game, you had to backtrack a lot. You have to go running back to places you've already been. And in the original game, you had to run. Now we have fast travel. So you can jump to way far away, do your thing, jump back. So you can leap around the areas very quickly. It makes life so much easier. Oh, and the map shows you all of the little red, green, and blue events. So you know if they're there, and they only show up on the legend of the map if there's one out there. So you just hit the map, and if there's just a red thing, then you know, well, I only have to go do the main quest. But if you see green and blue, you say, oh, I need to go do those first and then do the main quest. Again, the quality of life improvements are dramatic. Other thing they've really changed in this is the combat. In the original, it was strictly turn-based. You had a turn order, and you took your turn, and then the enemy took their turn, and it was slow, and it wasn't that interesting, and they tried to make it kind of interesting with animations and stuff. But in this one, they took the combat system from the Calvard games where there's action combat, so you can go out and do action combat on the field. Sometimes that's all you have to do. You can just kill whatever you want with action combat, and you don't even have to go into the turn-based system. But if the enemies are hard, you fight them in the action-based system until you stun them, then you jump into the turn-based and you have an advantage. It's like in the older games, if you hit them in the field from behind, you got an advantage. Well, now you have to stun them through combat. They've improved it from the Calvard series, the most recent games. They've added in some more stuff so that the action combat is even more fun and more entertaining. And you get rewards for doing the action combat. So you want to do a lot of action combat, and it's also faster. And once you're 5 levels above the enemies, it's real easy to kill them in action combat, which means you can just whip through the game if you get over-leveled a little. Although usually don't bother to grind, it's not worth it. Because they also scale your experience to the levels, so once you get over-leveled, you don't pick up any experience from killing these things, so don't bother. But it's a great combat system, and I just had tons of fun with it. It's like the Calvard games, Trails Through Daybreak and Tales Through Daybreak 2, but better. Music. They have the original soundtrack music in the game, but that's not the default. The default is the new version where they have redone it. But then there's a third soundtrack, which is they call arranged, where there's like more instruments and there's like strings and other kinds of things that aren't in either the original or the remake. The music is phenomenal. There's some really good stuff. They have peppy themes from when you're running around out in the thing. They have little cute themes when you're in cities. So there's little themes. Characters have themes. It's not the greatest music in the world, but it's perfectly serviceable, and it sounds great. One of the best things about this game, you don't have to take my word for any of this, because there's a demo on PlayStation and Steam and the Switch, which is the entire prologue, which is like 10, 15 hours, depending on if you talk to all the NPCs, where you can play through the game, get a good feel for the combat system, get a good feel for what it's like, get a good feel for all the mechanics, and decide if you like it. And it's free. So you can download the demo, try it out, no cost to you, zero downside. But if you like it, it's amazing. If you play through to the end of the game where you go to save your clear data, it then plays a little trailer for the next game. They're doing a remake of Trails in the Sky second chapter, which you will really want to play after you finish this game, because while this game wraps up the story of this game, it sets up some questions and a little bit of a cliffhanger about what's going to happen next. So you're going to have to come back and play the next game. But it's already in development. If you watch the trailer, you can see they already have all the cities. They already have all the land. I mean, they already have a lot of the assets, the monsters. It's just a matter of going through and translating the thousands and thousands of pages of dialogue, especially for all the NPCs. The NPCs aren't voiced, so that saves them a bit of money, but most of the main scenes are voiced. And speaking of the voice acting, I would be remiss if I did not talk about the voice acting. We have the same voice actors that have been doing these same characters in all the other Trails games. The Trails in the Sky games, when they first came out, did not ever have English voice acting. They were localized, but only with text. The only voices you could ever hear were the Japanese voices. Starting with Trails from Cold Steel, which is all summarized in this video that I did 2 years ago, they have extensive voice acting. It's still not completely voice acted, which is a little bit of an annoyance. But all of those voice actors and a lot of these characters from the earlier games, Joshua and Estelle from this game show up later on in some of these later games. So they have voice actors, and so you get the same voice actors. So they're the same people you've heard before, and they're really good. But the one I have to single out is Matthew Mercer. He's a very famous voice actor, and he voices Olivier Lenheim, a traveling bard. Well, here, let me just play a little scene of his voice acting so you can see what it sounds like.
It's rather perceptive of you. Too perceptive for an ordinary traveler. Are you sure you're just passing through?
There's no need for such a hostile glare. The cold shimmer in those amber eyes. It washes over me like fine brandy. I am tempted to hug and kiss you right now.
What?
Wow, you're bold.
Whoa! You have that kind of preference?
I am simply a lover of beautiful things. Glistening gem of a lady, a splendidly handsome fellow, a melody from heaven, a view to cleanse the soul, an artist's greatest masterpiece, a tale to make one whole. The finest wine and cuisine, everything of that nature piques my interest.
You just don't have any standards.
Olivier is one of my favorite characters. A little bit of comic relief. He's also a good party member. And Matthew Mercer just really, really chews the scenery in a good way. And I just love him. My other favorite character is Tita, which is a 12-year-old girl you run into in one of the areas who joined your party. She's a little tiny girl who carries this giant cannon. So she's a good party member because she does a lot of damage. But she's adorable and you just want to pinch her little cheeks. The characters are great. The writing is great. The voice acting is great. I love everything about this remake. Well, not quite everything. I already mentioned, in all the other games, anytime they talk about this particular country, they call it Liberl. But in this game, they decided to call it Liberl. It's Liberl. Liberl makes perfect sense. But no, they went with Liberl. So every time I hear that, it's just like jarring on my ears. And I'm sure the voice actors told him, this isn't how we pronounced it in all the other games. And I'm sure whoever was directing it said, hey, just do what they tell us to do. Oh, another thing, if you've played the original game, they have changed the names of some of the NPCs, which you think, well, that's not a big deal, except they reappear in later games under their old names. The names they had in this game originally, then propagated throughout all the other 13 games. And now they've changed them in this game, so I don't know what's going to happen. Now, here's what I think might happen. Because only the most recent games, starting with the Calvert arc, starting with the 11th game, have the new engine, like the one they used for this game, they're going to go back, I hope. We already know they're going to do the second chapter. I hope they're going to do the third chapter. And then we have the Crossbell games, which are the next two in the series, and which already have all the 3D models in them because Crossbell appears in later games, like Tales Through Reverie, from that video. So they ought to be able to remake those, which also have never been done with voice acting. And they could upgrade the combat system and do all the same things they did with this game. They can do it for the first 5 games. And then you have a 13-game series where they're all eminently playable. But wait, they could also redo Trails of Cold Steel 1 through 4 and Trails Through Reverie into the new engine. Maybe not Reverie, they might skip that one because it's already pretty good. But especially Trails Through Cold Steel 1 and 2, it's really crude. It was their first 3D and it wasn't really that good. So they could remake those. So it's possible that over the coming years, you will see all of the games remade all the way up through the current games. And the 13th game, Trails Beyond the Horizon, comes out at the beginning of next year. And then there's going to be one more game in the Calvert arc after that. And then there's apparently still supposed to be 6 more. If you like this game, strap in because you've got tons and tons of fun coming along. If you can't wait for all these remakes, after you play this remake, you might skip ahead to Trails of Cold Steel and play through all those after that, and then you can come back and pick these up. It's up to you. Or if you're young enough, you can wait for the remakes. I don't have that kind of time. And I've already played through all these games before. Well, it's all explained in this video where I go through all the different versions over the years. But there's an English language, not voiced, but English language of the Crossbell games, which I have played on PS4. And I have played all 3 Trails Through Sky games on Steam, where they have been for a few years. Not that many, but they've been out for a few years. Again, in English, but not voiced. But this is so much better. With the voices and the 3D characters and the anime, well, you've been seeing it all as we go along. I've been showing it to you, unless I'm a failure as an editor. So you've seen what it looks like, and it just looks amazing, and we know the next one's coming. Now, the 13th game is coming beginning of next year. I'm hoping that Trails in the Sky second chapter will come out next year, maybe the end of next year, the beginning of the year after, and then maybe wait another year for the third chapter. It takes them a year or two to do these games, but again, they're not doing them from scratch. One of the reasons for the name changes and everything is that they retranslated this. They did not take the version on Steam with the English subtitles and use that as their script. No, they redid it from the original Japanese, retranslated it from scratch, which is why you get some very slight different variations. There are things in all the other games they call archaisms, but in this game they call orbital golems, things like that. But again, it's allegedly truer to the original Japanese. Yeah, I don't really care. I just want a fun game, and this is a fun game. And I want a game that's got a lot of replay value, and this has a lot of replay value. In fact, if you want the Platinum Trophy, you have to play through it twice, because one of the trophies is for beating a boss that you can only get access to in a New Game Plus playthrough. And by the way, at the very end of the game. However, on subsequent playthroughs, like I said, you don't have to talk to any of the NPCs. You can just run right through and do all the quests. And so I got through my second playthrough in like 15 or 20 hours. And I'm doing a third playthrough, and I'm most of the way through it after like 5 hours. So your subsequent playthroughs are not such long slogs. It's just that first time where you have to go around and talk to everybody. And it's worth talking to them. I swear to you, it's worth talking to them. The little stories, the little backstories, the little things that happen, it just makes it feel like a world that's lived in, that these are all real people, and you really feel involved. And again, with the 3D anime style, they feel much more like real people than they did when they were the little sprites running around. I can't recommend this game highly enough. I think on Metacritic, it's currently sitting at like around an 8.9, 9.1, somewhere in there. I'd give it a 9.5. Being a Trails fan, I want to give it a 10, but things like the Liberl instead of Liberl, and there's a few other little things that just kind of, it's still a great game. And again, you don't have to take my word for it. Go download the demo. Steam, Switch, PS5. You can download the demo, play through, get all the way through the prologue, learn all the mechanics, and then decide, do I want to do this for another 50 hours? And if you do, then buy the game. Oh, and there's tons of DLC. I always buy all the DLC because I want to support the publisher, but it's also kind of a buy to win because you can buy a lot of things that you can get in game much later, but you can get them much earlier so you can become much more powerful. I don't like hard games first time through. So I always play through on easy the first time, then on New Game Plus, then I do Nightmare, which you have to play through on Nightmare to get a trophy. So I have to play through on Nightmare, but I do that when I'm already all leveled up from my first playthrough. And again, it's much easier to level up if you do everything in your first playthrough because it's a lot easier to get experience and get levels up. Anyway, that's Trails in the Sky first chapter. This is, I think, a seminal RPG. It's one of the very first games where they did a sequel and then another sequel, so they did 3 games. But then when that fourth game in Crossbell is still related. It's still in the same world. We're now 13 games in, and we're in the same world with the same things, although technology has moved apace. In this game, they have these communicators on the wall, like old-timey phones, and in the most recent games, they have cell phones. They're not called cell phones, but they're basically cell phones. And that was the thing. For this game, they developed an incredible amount of backstory. There's an incredible amount of lore. They don't dump it on you. They dribble it out here and there, and then there's places where you can go. There's books you can find around in the game which will tell you things about history and what goes on. And they go on and on about the 100 Days War, which was a big thing 10 years ago in Liberl. And by the way, comes back in the Crossbell games, and comes back again in Trails Through Cold Steel, and comes back again in the Calvard games. They're all interconnected. It's unbelievable the amount of world building these people have done. It's like if George R.R. Martin did a role-playing game. It's taking them about as long as it's taking him because he still hasn't finished Winds of Winter, but there's too much story to tell. As soon as this video is over, I want you to go download the demo and start fooling around with it. If you don't love it, fine, it's not for you. But I think you will love it, especially if you love JRPGs, especially if you love games with a lot of lore, especially if you love games with feisty young characters. It's just wonderful. I love these games so much. Well, I've made a half a dozen videos. I'll link the playlist down below. Every time one comes out, I do an unboxing. And by the way, I was supposed to do an unboxing for this one. I pre-ordered some stuff, except it never came. Oh well. So that's Trails in the Sky First Chapter Remake. I recommend it as highly as I can recommend a game. Please go download the demo and try it out. If you don't like it, fine, but give it a chance. I think you'll like it. Well, anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. See you next time. Bye-bye. Now I got to go finish my third playthrough. Thanks for staying to the end. Bye-bye.